Trump administration officials are set for a crucial round of talks with Mexico today as the U.S. prepares to impose tariffs on Mexican goods. President Trump is demanding that Mexico curb illegal immigration or face a series of escalating taxes. Any tariffs on Mexican goods are likely to push costs for American consumers and businesses up. So Dean Reynolds spoke to one businessman in Chicago who says that the price of food could skyrocket.
This is all for Mexico, okay? This whole pallet.
As we walked with Peter Testa through his company's vast 91,000 square foot produce warehouse, we quickly understood why he's a little anxious these days.
Probably 80–90% of all the jalapenos in Chicago right now are all Mexican grown.
With the Trump administration threatening to impose new tariffs on Mexican imports to force a crackdown on illegal immigration, it means Testa could soon have to pay more to stock his shelves. And so could his customers, grocery stores, restaurants, and all of their customers.
You know, cucumbers, watermelons, green onions,
blackberries, pineapples, papayas,
all this.
Bananas.
All this is coming from Mexico right now.
Mexico surpassed Canada and China this year as the United States' largest trade partner. In 2018, the U.S. imported nearly $372 billion worth of goods and services from there. And while some of the biggest imports are automobiles and vehicle parts, the U.S. brought in $13.4 billion worth of fruits, vegetables, and nuts.
They've been ripping us off.
From a trade standpoint, I think Mexico has been an absolutely fabulous partner. I would not fault them at all. I do not see the point in messing with a great partner.
Testa says there's no way to painlessly adjust. Food is not a discretionary purchase.
You don't have to buy a car. You don't have to buy an iPhone. You don't have to do that. Food, everybody eats.
So CBSN political contributor Zeke Miller is in Washington. He's a White House reporter for the Associated Press. All right, Zeke, let's talk. What is Mexico offering at this point in order to avoid the implementation of these tariffs? And if they are offering anything, why isn't it enough for the Trump administration?
It's not quite clear yet, particularly how far the Mexican government has come to accepting the Trump administration's asks. We know that those asks on Wednesday were for Mexico to sort of speed up the implementation of what had been a pilot program of accepting back people across the border illegally back into Mexico almost immediately, speeding up that process for asylum claims that they would remain, the so-called remain in Mexico policy. Secondarily, the second ask from Vice President Mike Pence was that Mexico speed the deportation or the return of migrants from Guatemala back to Guatemala. Those are the two asks on Wednesday. Thursday, yesterday, there seemed to be some development according to people who are close to those talks. They were telling me that Mexico appeared to agree to those two proposals, but the devil was in the details. It's not clear yet the implementation, how committed Mexico was to those two goals. Were they goals or were they actual action points? Was something they were going to do before Monday or something they were going to commit to do sometime down the line? That's sort of that's what really remains to be seen and negotiated out today, and that will determine the fate of these tariffs kicking in on Monday.
So the president was speaking on Fox News last night, and he was critical of members of his own party who were critical of him. They oppose these tariffs. It's, not very frequently that we see members of the Republican Party depart from the president. So what are these GOP members concerned about?
Well, this is one of those cases where Trumpism and Republicanism are clashing in a somewhat violent way. It's a constant reminder, and needs reminding every once in a while that Donald Trump was not a Republican before he entered the 2016 political race. Really, he was previously a Democrat, and a lot of his policy proposals are way outside the traditional Republican mainstream. One of those pillars of the Republican Party for generations has been the promotion of free trade, and that's where a lot of members of his party are. They've been willing to sort of be quiet and bite their tongues for quite some time on a whole lot of things. But when it comes to messing with the trade agreement with the nation's largest trade partner, as we just saw, that's the sort of thing that they sort of find a spine every once in a while and do speak up.
So this is one thing that I've been asking about since I heard about the threat of this tariff, right? that isn't there a tax, or isn't there sort of an agreement already being hammered out, right? The USMCA is supposed to replace the Free Trade Act. It still needs to be ratified by the Congress, I believe. But this is all about tariffs across the borders. Just like a little story, Zeke, I was on a plane flying back from Toronto earlier this week, on the weekend actually, and one of the conversations that I overheard was a concern from a Canadian business person who gets stuff from Mexico, right? So the stuff that's traveling from Mexico is going to cross into the U.S. border, have to deal with this tax before it even gets to Canada. So it occurred to me that the ripple effect of a tariff like this can be substantial and can certainly go beyond the borders of this country. So what about the USMCA? I mean, is that just sort of a scrap of paper that you can rip up whenever you need to?
Yeah, that's what's really interesting. It puts this administration in tension. The White House has said that passing USMCA really this summer is their top legislative priority for this Congress, something they want to see done immediately. And I was with Mike Pence yesterday in Pennsylvania. He's touring some local manufacturing businesses that want to benefit from that trade agreement. But some of the raw materials come from Mexico, and at the same time, 30 seconds later, he's attacking Mexico, threatening those tariffs are going to kick in. For the administration, it's a bit of an administration two-step. From a legal standpoint, the president would be relying on different authorities, emergency authorities that would be separate from the free trade agreement. Now NAFTA, soon to potentially be USMCA, assuming that's ratified. But it is, sort of rhetorically, but also somewhat ideologically, puts the administration in a somewhat inconsistent camp. And that's one of those things that we're hearing Republicans criticize the administration for, saying, if you do this, it's going to make it much harder for us to get USMCA across the finish line.
Right. Oh, well, they're negotiating today. Hopefully they are willing to stay late on a Friday and get something done. Zeke Miller, thank you very much.
Thank you.